Welcome back to the 27th. This is a custom default setup analysis for the Formula V12. My journey through the AMS2 F1 catalog continues. This one is thanks to Simon Olsen. We're going to be talking about what changes I made to the car, looking at some telemetry, and trying to find some time. I've had a chance to drive some really iconic Formula 1 cars. The Gen 3 Mod 2, otherwise known as the 1991 Williams FW14, the Lotus 79, the Brabham BT46B, and now the Formula V12, which for all intents and purposes is the Ferrari 412 T2, the last Formula 1 car in history to carry a V12 engine. We're here at Montreal, the historic 1988 track format, and it was recommended that I use this track because of the historical significance. That being, it was Montreal that Jean Alesi won his first and only Formula 1 race during the 1995 F1 season, and this was the last race to be won by a car with a V12 engine. So to honor that, I've chosen Jean Alesi's livery. For the F1 purists out there, Montreal's track layout was a bit different in 1995 than this format. Following the death of Ayrton Senna, and due to subsequent safety concerns in F1, a temporary chicane was added before the casino curve, and the final chicane was sharpened quite a bit, but the rest of the track is the same. The V12, well, let's say off the bat, the sound is amazing. If you're an F1 fan, you know that the sound of the newer cars was the cause of some grumblings within the F1 fan base. And to be quite honest, when watching on TV, it's one thing, but in person, live, part of the spectacle of motorsports is the sound of the cars. It's shocking. And not just F1. I was at a Rolex Series race about 10 years ago, walking over the bridge at New Jersey Motorsports Park, and one of the prototypes went under the bridge, and it literally compressed my rib cage and pushed my eyeballs into the back of my head. I mean, it's unreal. So let's talk about what changes I made to the car and why, and then some notes about driving this thing. As I'm working with more Formula 1 type cars now, I've added a test track to my workflow. So instead of just using contemporary or modern Imola, I'm including Silverstone International to test the aero and stiffness balance, and then Imola for fine tuning. And what I found with the V12 was interesting. I discovered that the center of pressure for the default package was really far forward, meaning the front had a lot more downforce in comparison to the rear. When making adjustments to ride height and wing, a pattern started to emerge. The more ride height I added, the more downforce. More ride height, more downforce. What was happening was the car was bottoming out quite a bit, especially in the rear, and during these parts of the track, downforce just dropped off the table, and you could feel it. The aero kicking in and out. The front would just start responding more, and the car felt weird and made me tentative. The other major change was to the differential. The car was virtually locked unless you hit a curb, so I fixed the stiffness distribution, opened up the differential a little bit, and the car unlocked, and with the extra rear downforce, it really helped with throttle confidence. But I wanted to talk about driving on historical tracks for a moment, and especially on default setups, AMS2s and mine. Historicals are bumpier, and that's quite obvious, but it's important because this changes how the car drives. A nice, smooth, modern GP track, and the cars can feel buttery soft with grip to spare, but on historical tracks, the car might feel like a stone skipping on concrete. Montreal 88 is especially prone to this. The difficulty factor doubles without individual track setups. Braking zones, cornering grip consistency, and acceleration zones. Moreover, with LiveTrack 3.0, offline cornering or acceleration on a historical track will be even more tricky on top of this. LiveTrack 3.0 features, grip levels or rubbering in of the track. So if you're offline, it's going to change. So what I'm saying is, it's not going to feel like a Wagon Queen family truckster. It's going to make you work up a sweat. So let's look at the telemetry, and I can show you a little bit about what we've been talking about. All right, racing sim tools again. We're looking at modern Imola default package here at the top left, and then underneath it the custom default setup session. So we're looking at the arrow tab, the ride height section, and when I was saying when I was mentioning bottoming out, this is what it looks like right here. So this is the end of the main straightaway going into the first major braking zone into Tamburello, and you can see that the default package is literally scraping the bottom of the ground. And then let's contrast that with the custom package, and you can see I raised it up. So now there's going to be still major bumps that come into play, but you'll feel this with the car, and then generally across the entire lap you can see that there's also a general increase in ride height, and the rake is a little bit higher in the back after the adjustments. But let me show you what impact this has on the car. So switching back just to the default package, we're going to take a look at the downforce now, and these are the axle loads up here. The blue is the rear and the red is the fronts. Let's contrast that with the custom package, and you can see a significant increase in rear aero. Now I did add a couple of clicks of rear wing. I thought the rear end stability required it. It also balanced out the center of pressure a lot to more acceptable ranges. You can see here on the second graph with the default package, the center of pressure in some spots is around 50%. That's way too far forward according to normal parameters. So we raised that up to about 60% with a rear engine car. That's about right. So you can see that the rear downforce through these acceleration zones is a lot more apparent. And if you look at the bottom graph, the speed graph, the red is going to indicate the custom package, and the green is going to be the default package. And you can see, especially here at the Piratella, the acceleration was better. The speed carrying through the corner was better. Here also, Rivazza, very important corner to get the rear end stuck to the tarmac and accelerating down the main straight. And you can see that there is although there was a little, it doesn't look like much on the graph, we were able to get that power down earlier. Let's zoom in on this Rivazza corner though, just so you can see the difference. So the peaks here, you're looking at 1900. I'm looking at the rears, 1900 versus 2500. That's a 20 or 30% increase in rear downforce just right there. That will help corner exits. It ultimately helped with the lap pace. Now, what's the negative of having extra rear wing? It's a top end speed. So you'll look here at the end of the front straight. We're switching back here. Let me see if I can get this to be the right spot. It looks like we're losing about 8 kilometers per hour at the end of the straight. But ultimately, the laps were faster. The higher downforce led to more confidence in the braking zones. If you take a look at the downforce here, there's a transition. Here's the default package again. Midway through the braking zone, the transition where the default package and the custom package becomes similar downforce-wise. But it's that early part of the braking zone where you can feel a lot more confidence, and then also get the car turned in better for the proper racing lines. All of this comes into play. The other thing I mentioned was the differential as well. So let's go back to just the default, so we're not overly burdened with all of this data. Downforce. No, we're looking at the handling tab. Let's click it. Come on now. So the second graph is the wheel slip difference. This is basically whether or not the differential is opening and unopening, and the third graph is that actual difference represented. And this bar across means that it's completely locked through the entire lap, just a locked differential. Now I think here at Acqua Minerale, there was probably some curbs. That'll unlock the differential, and then here also at that chicane there, going over that chicane will unlock. So that's not unsurprising. But take a look at the custom package, and you can see with the changes we unlocked appropriately. And a lot of the times these spikes over 10% are usually curb work, but if you take a look at some of these acceleration zones here coming out of Villeneuve, you can see that the differential was unlocking appropriately, about 5% unlocking. And then the braking zones also. Here's TOSA. We have unlocking, whereas with the default package, completely locked. That changes the driving characteristics, and you don't want unlocking too much, but just enough. That's where I think we found the right balance there. So that's the Formula V12, aka the Formula 412 T2. I hope you enjoy the build. Coming up, another Ferrari, the Formula Classic Gen 2 Mod 3 by request, and another Jean Alesi car. Go figure. If you think that car will be similar to this one, it's not. A much different animal and challenging in different ways. After that, Racing USA is coming, and the plan is that the custom default setups will be put on hold until I can get out all of my normal new content, evaluations. Then we'll be back with more cars. No trucks, thank you very much. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and take care.